about crisis and the prevention, and it has everything to do with Safia Verjee, who's Executive Director, International Center for Humanitarian Affairs, Kenya Red Cross in the house. Let's just paint a quick picture for you. If you don't know, climate change is insane, and it's hitting the global scene, and we happen to be part of that global scene because we are on this, well, you call it globe, but it's rather flat. I believe it's a flat earth, but then again, the semantics, we're not getting into that one. Fellaris giving me that look like, don't you even start.
Not today.
Kenya climate changes, temperature rising, expected to be about over 2.5 degrees Celsius by 2050. And that's a huge rise from back in the 1960s, where they're about when we're getting our independence.
Yeah.
Then there's irregular rainfall and droughts, and the effect is so visible, especially when it comes to the Azores, which is his arid and semi-arid lands, which covers, actually, if I'm not right, paid attention in geography, about 80% of the land mass in this country, more than 80%, I'm certain of that, of the land mass in this country, which means it's succumbing to a lot of drama, and the people who live there are dealing with more of the hit of this climate change than anyone else. Now, we're not even going to delve into flooding. 2003, 2004 was it? I remember I actually saw a video just the other day where houses were submerged. Do you remember that time when the rainfall was insane, and people who were living near Karura Forest, some of them had encroached into the forest. People were living in the way of the rivers. They had their houses submerged. Heck, we had to go and save some people with boats. And then we turned around and remember Sakaja saying, have you bought a boat? Asking you, remember the census where they came through and they were asking you, do you have a boat? And we used to mock it, and then reality hit. And we're not going to even to delve into the agriculture and economy. This is just to paint but a very surface level picture of some of the things we're dealing with. So it's good to have you in the house, Verjee. It's absolutely brilliant to have you. Welcome to Capital in the Morning, first and foremost. If you don't mind moving that mic towards you. There we go. Welcome to Capital.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Now, like we said, Verjee represents Kenya Red Cross. She is Executive Director, International Center for Humanitarian Affairs. Smarter climate action. Off the back of the description we have just given, what does that actually mean?
So smarter climate action, I think, is us not being surprised by disasters that we know are coming. It means that we use the data that we have to act earlier. It means that we leverage on local systems and local capacities to respond faster. And it means allocating enough resources to be able to prepare and to respond and to recover. So in an essence, I think it means more informed, more likely local and more timely action.
I'm seeing on the newspaper today, one of the dailies, just a statement coming from Red Cross is that over 2 million people, including 784,000 children, are in dire situation. And of course, this is with the drought crisis, which is a climate disaster by itself. Just to quote, Red Cross County Coordinator Gregory Masharia says that 2 million people in the Asal region, which Chiko just spoke about, are at risk of acute food insecurity, with about, like the figure that I mentioned, children that are falling under dire situation. Now, how do we mitigate some of these things? Because then drought becomes one of those climate disasters that we deal with. It's either an extreme, it's two extremes. It's either it's raining crazy, and on this other side, there's drought that we have to deal with. But we have to find that sweet spot as a country, that given the situation and considering the situation, that we have systems in place and structures in place to be able to deal with such situations.
So I think for us, we can't prevent droughts or floods, right? And the extremes are starting to become a norm for us. So what we can do is start to work towards preventing suffering. And this involves, like you said, the mitigation, the preparedness part of it. How do we do this? Early warning, early action is becoming a big thing. How do we start to use the climate forecasts that we're getting? How do we start to look at the trends that have happened over the past few years and start to try and predict when these disasters will strike? And then really it's about what we call impact-based forecasting. So starting to issue early warnings early enough, so that we can start to invest in early preparedness activities. So when we say that, it's about drought. For example, with the drought, what we've done is we allocated resources to now borehole rehabilitation in certain areas where we feared that water will become scarce for the community and for the livestock. In other areas, it's about distribution of drought-resistant seeds, so that farmers can continue to grow their crops, but these are crops that are drought-resistant. And so at the end of the day, household food security isn't as impacted as it would have been in the past. If we're talking about floods, then it means anticipating the rising water levels, and at what point do we have to then get communities to start moving further away from the rivers, or at what point do we start to try and redirect some of the water? So I think those are the things that we need to start investing in, build proper systems that allow us to act quickly and coordinate all of us as actors, response actors, humanitarian actors, so that we're also not approaching situations ad hocly, but it's in a very structured way.
It's interesting you talk about adaptation and, trying to mitigate these situations, which we have absolutely no control over, but we do have information of when they happen, the times they happen, and the fact that they will happen. I always go crazy when at certain times, certain areas, kutanyesha, it will flood. And then people come out, Kenyans for Kenyans, let's help Kenyans. And I'm always like, why are we doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results?
Insanity.
It never makes sense to me. But it's not cheap as well, mitigating, because there's a article I read, and I captured this part where it says, so adaptation and mitigation in Kenya in terms of this whole climate change and the situation that we find ourselves in, sectoral efforts are focusing on renewable energy, that's geothermal and solar, drought-resistant agriculture, which is what you've just brought up and reminded me of this article, and improved water management. A funny thing, and she's a finance person, so financing gap is stated that it is estimated the cost for Kenya's adaptation is roughly, get this, 677.5 billion shillings annually, with a significant funding gap for necessary action. This blew my mind. You can find it on IEA Kenya. You can find it on the website developmentalaid.org. All of them were leading to the same conversation in terms of what it would cost this country in order to mitigate and to deal with this, which then, when you look at the economy of this country, really doesn't make sense. So what are the realistic things that we can do from the perspective of Red Cross that can actually help us deal with what is coming and what has been coming?
Yeah. No, for sure, the financial gap that you're talking about is a reality for us. But as Kenya Red Cross, I think our priority is making sure that we're ready to support and to respond. This means for us a more structured way of even beneficiary registration. So it's even hard to imagine a few years ago everything was still manual for us. In terms of a disaster strikes, we go to the community. Let me give you Isiolo, for example. We'd go with our paper and pens, and everybody's names would sort of be written down with their ID numbers and phone numbers. That would then be put into an Excel sheet and then sent over to our HQ, and then we would do cash transfer over M-Pesa. Now, that takes a long time. But for us then, with the mindset of innovation, with the mindset of let's become more efficient, we adopted now a digital solution where beneficiary registration is happening on mobile phones on a secured platform at the community level. And ideally, the community is the one that is entering their data. So even in terms of data protection, that's sort of the mindset that we're employing. And then this makes it so much faster because now we have an entire registry of potential people affected by disasters, so that when we're affected or the disaster strikes, we're not wasting time with registration. It's just about validating that this community has been affected, and whether it's pre-positioning of items, whether it's allocating the right number of resources, whether it's cash transfer, etc., that's all happening a lot faster for us.
That's such a big gain. That's such a big
It's-
change. Actually, for how long have you been at Red Cross?
Since 2012.
Since 2012.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of growth and big change, which has then had a clear effect on the
Yeah.
ground. What else has changed, considering technology coming in, that you could look back within the course of the last 14 years and go like, okay, so we've grown there from Red Cross's
Yeah.
perspective.
So for us, the center that I manage, ICHA for short, we're essentially a research innovation hub, and so we're testing the use of tech to support response and preparedness. So, for example, we have a great partnership with the Airbus Foundation, and they give us free credits to access satellite imagery. We can also task some of the satellites, and then we set up about 4 or 5 years ago. We set up a drone team. So we have about 4 drones in house and a team trained. So we deploy our drone pilots every single time that there's a need on ground after a disaster. So I'll give you an example of the Algea Marakwet landslide that
Yeah.
happened a few months ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for that, there actually was, I think there was a little bit of early warning. I do remember we sent out a blast of early warning messages through Safaricom to communities living in at-risk areas during the rains. And so then once the landslide happened, we tasked the Airbus satellite, and we got imagery of the before and after. And then when you sort of overlay them, you're able to see the extent of the damage.
Correct.
And then we deployed the drones team to then also map out the specific area that had been affected. And so then with all those 3 images, we were able to then actually pinpoint the number of households that had been affected. And then this supported now the response teams and the volunteers to be able to first go to the exact location of the
Locations,
disaster,
yeah.
but then to plan their route of search and rescue. And so before all of this sort of tech, we wasted a lot of time deploying volunteers, deploying uncertain amount of relief items, and sort of searching just based on where you think people are.
Yeah.
And so that all happens much quicker for us. But that's talking response. In terms of, like we said, preparedness or early warning, we're also using the satellite imagery to take visuals of areas like Tana River that often get flooded, and then being able to map out potential at-risk households.
Nice.
Yeah, and then using that information to work now with county government, to work with response agencies on in the county, to then start to work with the community to better prepare.
How's the response been? I mean, from the people. It's one thing to have that technology and to see that the flood is coming, but then now telling someone your house is in danger, we need to move you. How's that
evacuate,
response been?
So, I mean, it can be mixed, but for Kenya Red Cross, I think we're placed in a favorable position where we're community based. We have community volunteers. We're auxiliary to county government and national government. And through the last 60 years, we've built trust with communities. And that's also not an easy thing to do. So I think for us, we're primed in the sense that when the information comes from us, and when you can see that we're working closely with local authorities, with community leaders, with religious leaders, then the information is taken much more seriously.
It's interesting to see what kind of Kenya in itself is positioned as having probably the highest penetration of a mobile access, and that of course plays to the advantage of organizations like Red Cross in terms of reaching communities at a very granular level, and that also plays in terms of disaster preparedness. But innovations that you've seen that would actually then sort of like help the Red Cross and our disaster management teams in terms of mitigating any kind of future disasters, be it you've spoken about drones and satellites that you have access to. Maybe what other innovations are you seeing within that space that would actually then play out in terms of, present preparedness and also future preparedness?
So of course, AI is taking over. For us, I think we're cautious because the gains are clear, but the risks are not super obvious to us right now, especially for the humanitarian sector. And you have to remember, we're working with data of the most vulnerable. Often people that are providing their data to us because they have no other choice. So for us, we're looking at using AI to for predictive modeling. So being able to say, like, to look at the trends, to look at the data and see what is it saying and what can it predict for us in the next 2 to 3 years. That will help us with raising resources, that will help us with getting the right capacities in-house in all of our sort of different levels of the organization. And it will help us in terms of just preparing or deploying the right supplies, the right equipment, etc. So that would be how we're looking at AI sort of evolving for us. Of course, mobile tech, like you mentioned, is huge, and it's everybody's on their mobile phones. We also have to be cognizant of the fact that not everybody's on smartphones, but also feature phones. And so every solution that we're introducing to a community, we have to make sure that there's provision of the feature phones, so the USSD platform. We have to make sure that connectivity is there. We have to make sure digital literacy is there. And so we work closely with the solution providers and with the communities to sort of address some of those gaps. And how do we build or deploy solutions that are not leaving anyone behind, essentially.
You know, it's a good thing because you brought in the aspect of partnership. Red Cross cannot do this by itself, and even just down to the community level. So outside of partnerships like with the telcos and community leaders, what other areas of partnership are you seeing in terms of being able to, one, make this a very inclusive, everybody's included in it, but also response whenever disaster strikes, or it's even just like in the preparedness of it all?
So I think that in terms of partnerships, you're correct. We definitely cannot do this alone, and I think that that's also where all organizations in this sector are at. So for an example, you're talking about beneficiary registration, and in the past it would be like, we would be there collecting data on all beneficiaries, then another organization would come and collect the same data and the same data. And that leads to beneficiary fatigue. It leads to just generally risks around data protection. So we're looking at how do we build systems where that serves all organizations, right? And I'm not saying Kenya Red Cross is building these systems, but when we work with partners, can we look at a solution that's interoperable in the sense that can all organizations sort of come together, give their inputs on the design, and we all use the same solution so that we're not wasting resources, we're not duplicating our efforts. I think private sector is also a very important partner for us. They're often the ones affected as well after disaster strikes because, the economy is affected. Disposable income isn't as moving as freely. But I think private sector also have a responsibility here to look at these communities as potential markets and develop or design products that are affordable and accessible to these communities. There is the willingness to pay. If we're talking about building resilient communities, we can't continue with this mindset of handouts. We have to look at them as potential customers, potential markets.
Correct.
And so how does private sector come in to design and develop products that that can be taken up by these communities?
I want you to put a finger on that one, because we'll be back to pretty much just look back at the relationship you're having with the private sector and see how much more improvement is required and where you'd like to see that improvement, and maybe just make a call to this private sector in a more realistic sense for them. I like the way you just pointed it out. It doesn't have to be handout, gimme. It could actually be a market that you could create and build your business while actually helping the community. We're speaking to the one and only Verjee, Safia Verjee, who's an executive director. Icha. Okay, short Icha, but it's actually the International Center for Humanitarian Affairs from Kenya Red Cross. We'll be right back as we continue to have this conversation from crisis to prevention. We're using data and innovations to stay ahead of climate disasters.
This Valentine's Day, Two Rivers Mall turns 9, and love has never looked better. For 9 incredible years, Two Rivers has been Nairobi's premier shopping and lifestyle destination, bringing together top fashion stores, essential services, trusted banking, and some of the city's best food courts, all in one place. Whether you're shopping for the perfect Valentine's gift, enjoying great dining, or spending quality time with the ones you love, Two Rivers is where it all comes together. Catch all the live English Premier League action at the riverfront every Saturday and Sunday. And kick off your weekend with live DJs and a live band every Friday and Saturday. Tune into The Jam for more information. Celebrate love. Celebrate 9 years. Two Rivers Mall, the ultimate family destination.
Some sounds never fade. Some memories just get better with time. For more than 10 incredible years, Sunday afternoons have belonged to the classics. Join the master of the turntables, DJ Adrian, as he spins pure gold, where you can hear the warmth of vinyl, feel the soul of yesteryear. 2 magical hours, where every crackle tells a story, where every beat brings back a memory. From the smooth sounds of the 70s, through the unstoppable groove of the 80s, to the unforgettable hits of the 90s. This isn't just a mix show. This is a time machine. Let DJ Adrian take you back, where the music was real, the feelings were pure, and every Sunday afternoon became legendary. Make Sundays old school. Sundays with DJ Adrian on Soul Groove. A decade of making memories, 3 to 5 p.m., only on Capital FM, where classics never die. Capital Traffic and Travel.
Well, the roads looking very busy. Heavy traffic pretty much on most of the city roads, experiencing delays of up to 15 minutes. The A104, well, delays of 6 minutes. Kiambu Road looking rather busy. Traffic starting all the way from DCI headquarters, coming up towards Muthaiga Square. Delays of close to 10 minutes. And the Eastern Bypass, that's as you are heading towards North Airport Road. Well, delays of 15 minutes if you're flowing towards the CBD, experiencing traffic if it's on Uhuru Highway and Kenyatta Avenue. Ooh, that's looking quite busy. Heading up towards Westlands, if you want to get to that car road, it's Chiromo Drive, yes. Traffic and significant delays. Well, finally, Peponi Road and Lower Kabete Road also looking quite busy as you're heading in towards Westlands. Let us know what's going on around you, 0701984984984 or at 984 in the morning using the hashtag DriveIn, double N at the end.
Capital Traffic and Travel. The Dr. Wale Leadership Series.
In the mind of the manufacturer, we made this for 3 to 5 years, so we have something else ready. All right? Now, that is the mindset of leadership, that we are constantly evolving, because there's nothing like once a leader, always a leader. Look, if trends and technology on the outside is growing faster than you are growing on the inside, then you'll be relevant. That means, some people, they are at par with the times. That's called the average. Some people are behind the times. They're always catching up. Those are the ones we call in Nigeria mumu. And then you now have those who are ahead. They are thinking ahead, and they have positioned themselves for their thinking. And I think that's where every leader ought to be.
The Dr. Wale Leadership Series, shaping leaders, inspiring impact. Only on 98.4 Capital FM.
Nairobi, the world is watching and the stage is set. On February 14th and 15th, Nyayo Stadium transforms into a rugby cauldron for the HSBC Sevens Division 2. Capital FM, your official media and entertainment partner, is taking the vibe to a whole new level. It's a totally sold out 2 days of pure electric energy as Kenyans bring that unmatched spirit to push our Shujaa and Lionesses to glory. Expect the best mix of music, the wildest cheers, and a sea of red, black, and green. If you've got your ticket, you're part of history. HSBC Sevens Division 2. Brought to you by the home of the best mix of music, 98.4 Capital FM.
Previously on The Jam with June and Martin.
Well, let me tell you. Yeah. The 90s. Tell them.
Wow, the penultimate decade.
Exactly.
To the OOs. The OOs are also known as the naughties. But we are not going to be naughty. We are just going to be lost.
Believe.
And if you think about the 1990s,
Think about it.
through to number 1,
Nine,
number 2,
number 4, number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Come on.
you going to party like it's 1999. That's what we're going to do.
That's
All
what
right?
we're gonna do.
Now, all I'm going to tell you is we'll be outdoors.
Outdoors.
So if you perspiring,
Perspiring.
there will be a wind
Whee!
from the Almighty.
Mighty.
So that you do not smell bad.
Usi nuki.
And you do not have unpleasant body odor.
Oh, nuki odor.
But if you want to keep dancing,
If you want to keep coming on that
the music, that is the best mix.
mix.
At Lost in the 90s.
Lost.
Capital FM has got you covered as you get lost and found. KICC.
The Jam, weekdays 3 to 7 p.m. on 98.4 Capital FM.
In Capital Newsbeat this hour.
President Ruto launches the Nyota project in Malindi. Above average rains expected in key regions, weatherman predicts. And doctor who treated Bondi killer referred.
More in Capital Newsbeat.
Capital Sports Update, where sports is taken seriously.
Well, good morning. Kenya women's rugby sevens team returned to training yesterday at the RFUEA grounds following their preparation tour in Spain as they step up preparations for the HSBC Sevens Division 2 tournament, which is scheduled for next weekend at the Nyayo National Stadium. The squad focusing on tactical drills, fitness conditioning and team cohesion as they fine-tune their approach ahead of the high-stakes home tournament. Lionesses will be facing Spain, Brazil, China, South Africa and Argentina, competing in 3 legs across the global cities along Kenya, Uruguay and Brazil. Now, national under-20 women's football team coach Jacqueline Juma has backed her players to hold their own against Tanzania in Saturday's World Cup qualifier. In Nairobi, Juma says that she has selected players with a winning mentality in order to deal with the threat of their East African neighbors. The two teams are set to clash in the first leg of the qualifier at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. The International Olympic Committee, IOC, is considering reforming its procedure for awarding future games to restore transparency and establish a rather clearer timetable as the contest looms as to who hosts the 2036 Summer Olympics. The 2036 race is considered wide open and is expected to feature bids from the likes of India, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, South Africa, Turkey, and of course Chile. I'd like to go there, among other interested parties. Grabar Kitrovic, who heads a working group on the designation of Olympics hosts sets up by IOC President Kirsty Coventry, said she believes structures, timelines, increased transparency, and more meaningful participation by IOC members were required. That's your Capital FM Sports update. For more on these stories, our website still exists.
Capital Sports Update, up-to-the-minute sports, where sports is taken seriously. Coffee's on, and so is the music. You've found your morning show, Capital in the Morning with Chiko and Fellaris.
She take my money when I'm in need. Yes, it's a trifling friend indeed. Oh, she's a gold digger way over town that digs on me. She give me money.
Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Get down, girl, gon' head, get down. Get down, girl, gon' head, get down. Get down, girl, gon' head, get down. Get down, girl, gon' head. Cutie the bomb, met her at a beauty salon with a baby Louis Vuitton under her underarm. She said, I could tell you rock, I could tell by your charm. Far as girls, you got a flock, I could tell by your charm and your arm, but I'm looking for the one. Have you seen her? My psychic told me she'll have a like Serena, Trina, Gina for Lopez, 4 kids, and I gotta take all they bad to showbiz. Okay, get your kids, but then they got their friends. I pulled up in the Benz, they all got a bin. We all went to den, and then I had to pay. If you fucking with this girl, then you better be paid. You know why? Take too much to touch her. From what I heard, she got a baby by Buster. My best friend said she used to with Usher. I don't care what none of y'all say, I still love her. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead. 18 years, she got one of your kids, got you for 18 years. I know somebody paying child support for one of his kids. His baby mama car crib is bigger than his. You will see him on TV any given Sunday. Win the Super Bowl and drive off in a Hyundai. She was supposed to buy your shorty Tyco with your money. She went to the doctor, got lipo with your money. She walk around looking like Michael with your money. Shoulda got that insured Geico for your money. If you ain't no punk, holla, we want prenup. We want prenup, yeah. It's something that you need to have. Cause when she leave, she gon' leave with half. 18 years, and on her 18th birthday, found out it wasn't his. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Now I ain't saying she a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead. Now I ain't saying you a gold digger, you got knees. You don't wanna do the smoke, but he can't buy. You go out to eat, he can't pay, y'all can't leave. His dishes in the back, you gotta roll up your sleeves. But while y'all washing, watch him. He gon' make it to a beans out of that toxin. He got that ambition, baby. Look at his eyes. This week he mopping floors, next week is the fries. So stick by his side. I know his dudes ballin', and yeah, that's nice. And they gon' keep calling and trying, but you stay right, girl. And when he get on, he leave your for a white girl. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead, get down. Get down, girl, gon' ahead. Let me hear that back.
Well, good morning. You are on Capital in the Morning. Fellaris and Chiko with you, your best mix of music. Quick one, in case you have no plan, would like to give you a plan. In fact, we're hanging out with Safia Verjee, and she's Executive Director, International Center for Humanitarian Affairs, Kenya Red Cross, and she's in studio to talk about climate and crisis to prevention using data innovation to stay ahead of climate disasters. But when she's not working so hard to do something that we should all be participating in. Good morning, Government of Kenya, GOK. She, I'm hoping at least, she likes to have some fun. Do you like sports?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Is it predictable? Is it cricket?
Yes.
I thought so. Listen, but do you watch some rugby?
I don't, but I would love to.
Oh, good. We have an idea for you. I think you should probably watch it on TV, because I'm sure you don't have a ticket now. But I can see if I can pull some strings here. We had a few tickets, see if we can get one for you. But we would love you to join the rest of Kenya as we celebrate, support, and cheer our national team, Shujaa and Lionesses, who will be in action at the HSBC Sevens 2, which is Division 2, and they're trying to get back. You mentioned Safaricom and how they're helping you with sending information to people, and obviously sending money to the people in areas that are difficult to reach, and it saves time and helps life. Well, that's not the only thing they're doing. They're also known for being behind every moment and every comeback, and that's what they're hoping to do alongside Kenya's as we bring the Kenya corner alive. This is rugby talk, so gear up, all right? Nyayo Stadium is the place. Lionesses are in action. Shujaa are in action. Lionesses, they have the likes of Brazil, they have the likes of South Africa, a lot of action for the Shujaa. They've made it very clear our only problem will be the US of A, but we'll be there to cheer them again in every single game. Whereas there, glad you asked, National Stadium, when the 14th and 15th of this month, that's next weekend. Do not be deceived by someone who's telling you can still buy tickets. They are done. Sold out event.
Finito.
No ticket anywhere, so don't buy tickets. But if you have money, I can get you a ticket. I'm joking. We'll try and organize for you to get a ticket. But if you don't get a ticket, worry not. You can watch it on TV and surprise, celebrate it with the people around you as we watch and show rugby the Nairobi way. Unwavering resilience, unstoppable energy. You've got to be there as we bring it to life.
Well, and back to our conversation now that we have the hype and excitement of the 14th and 15th. If you don't have a Valentine, well, we have a plan for you. Well, planning is an essential part of disaster management. Now, when the mics were off, we were talking about our national policy and budgeting when it comes down to how prepared we are as a country. And very shocking figures here that I am...
Stunning.
It's crazy. Disaster preparedness requires for us to have certain allocations. So looking at the Disaster Management Fund regulations, now this was a framework that guides resource mobilization with funds distributed as per this breakdown: 55% for disaster response, 25% for recovery, 17% for mitigation and preparedness, and another 3% for administrative costs. Now, according to the National Treasury, the allocations currently stands at 7.4 billion shillings annually for drought relief and disaster supplies. And this is, of course, distributed, across the 46 counties, but of course, priority is given to more of the vulnerable counties. Now, we still see things like what is on the dailies today about kids whose only way of feeding is through the school feeding programs, because then when they go home, there's no food. We are seeing marginalized communities that still have year on year have to deal with this kind of disasters. So on paper, it does look quite rosy that, we have a national policy and a budget that's allocated to mitigate these disasters. But on the ground, things are very different. From Red Cross, what are we seeing being the gap? Because I was going to ask you what the role of national government is in integrating, budgets and policies to just make sure that this is mitigated. But that has already been done. So we'll be regurgitating that question. What are the gaps you're seeing when it comes to planning and the reality on the ground?
I think the gap is not so much on the early warning, but really the actualizing those warnings into action. The government is doing a great role in terms of convening and coordinating the different partners that respond or that work closely with communities. I think really now it's about investing in proper systems and in infrastructure that can help streamline response, but also that systems that allow communities to also be able to be part of the response. So whether that's setting up community-based sort of disaster centers, whether it's about trainings at community level. I think investment into those sort of systems helps in the long run by continuously being able to prepare for and then respond before things get to the state that we're in. So I think that's where I see the gap, is that we have, let's say, the budget allocation, we have the resources, but then it's just on response, and we're not doing anything long term to invest in the infrastructure or the systems around being better prepared.
It's interesting, part of those budgets for at least 2025, national disaster operations, that budget for the national disaster operations of 2025, approximately 44.919 million Kenya shillings. You were talking about preparing for it, right? Disaster Preparedness Fund, they established 40 million Kenya shillings to boost disaster preparedness, as highlighted in March 2025. Funds allocation structure to allocate 70% for mitigation, preparedness, 50% for response, 30% for loss and recovery. Are those numbers encouraging for you?
Yes, I mean, they are from where we're coming from. Now that we're looking at specific allocation being made to things like loss and damage, to mitigation, to preparedness, I think we've come a really long way in the last sort of decade to be able to make sure that resources are being channeled to where the disaster is happening. So to county level, to local disaster response teams.
Let's go back to that conversation we were talking about, the private sector. Now, you mentioned that it's not non-existent, but it's also not ideal. So let's create a nation, utopia, where this situation is ideal from Red Cross's perspective. What would that look like? What would you like to see? How much more would you like to see from the private sector, and in which angle?
Yeah. So I think if we're talking about preparedness or supporting communities to be stronger or better prepared, I think that the role for private sector, like we said, is to look at communities as potential markets. And that isn't to say that to try and extract profit from them. But communities also deserve their dignity, right? And dignity comes with being able to pay for a service that you deem valuable. Handouts are essential, and there's a time and place for handouts. But in terms of preparedness, the communities are able to allocate or to take some of their income and realize the value in investing in, let's say, an early warning subscription, or investing in purchasing drought-resistant seeds for themselves. So the idea is that private sector comes in, they've curated and developed solutions or products that are affordable for these communities. So even if we're talking about an insurance product for community, this is also something that can be what we call risk-based financing. And so the resources or the money is sort of released when certain triggers are met and not when the disaster happens. So for example, if we're talking about floods, if heavy rains are predicted, then resources are released to help communities, let's say, repair their roofs or build sort of drainages, etc., instead of waiting for the floods to happen and then you're giving them insurance money to rebuild their roof or whatever when structures have already been destroyed. So I think that in terms of that, private sector really need to think through their role in terms of supporting these communities. We're there to also work hand in hand with private sector. And I think it's coming to that point where we're starting to understand each other. We're starting to speak each other's language. We're not demanding free services or free money from private sector. Yes, there's the CSR component. But what we're doing is making sure that private sector can develop solutions for for the community. The products are viable and ethical in that sense. They're not and so when we're doing those linkages or connections, we're also making sure that the community is not being exposed.
Exploited.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the role that we're trying to play in terms of linking private sector with communities.
I like that you brought in the aspect of exploitation, because then, again, referencing a chat we were having earlier, is when there is philanthropy is a very big aspect of, just helping communities recover from disaster and mitigate disaster. But then again, we've had enough cases where philanthropy is used to exploit the very same communities it tries to speak to. So what protection mechanisms could be applied or have been applied to just make sure that the vulnerable and the communities are not exposed to this?
So first, I think data protection is the biggest risk for us, right? Because data is gold right now for all of us. So the government has the data protection center, and we have a commissioner in place, and they're doing really good work in terms of ensuring that sort of these types of projects or interventions you're going through and you're doing it in major risks. I think also the idea is to also give communities a say in what an ideal solution looks like for them, so that when we're introducing a solution or when we're creating those linkages, they have a choice of which partner they would want to work with or they would want to purchase from, and so we're not monopolizing a solution area, or we're not giving communities only one solution. I think that's where risk can also come in terms of exploitation. But I mean, I can't say we've had any sort of bad experiences. It's all been really great when we connect. It's just about ensuring that the sustainability is there, ensuring that communities continue to get the right support from whether it's a startup or a private sector partner, etc.
Safia Verjee, finally, as we wrap this one up, I'm just looking at investments. We can talk about, there's so much that's required, but which key areas would you encourage focus on if we are to reduce the impact of, this whole situation, climate change, and the repercussions that come with it for the communities out there? Where should we invest first?
Yeah, it's an important question, and I think for me, and based off of the work that I'm doing, I think investment needs to be in looking at preparation as essential infrastructure. It's not an option. In terms of, we're talking about sort of government, national level budgets, we're talking about county budgets, we're talking about organizations and private sector. We need to look at the systems around preparation. So early warning systems. How do we translate early warning into early action? How do we build systems in place that allow for quicker response? How do we allow for systems that give us the data that we need to be able to make timely and logical decisions? If we invest in that infrastructure, which we're calling preparation, then I think we've come a long way in terms of making sure that communities are safer. And if we have that in place, and if we have a policy in place that prioritizes that, and we have the right resources, then I think we can make a lot of difference, especially in the coming years. Because, like you said, climate change is not it's not an option for us right now. We're sitting in the middle of it. We're one of the most affected regions, and it's going to keep happening. So really, we're in a position to decide how we want to move forward and support and prepare our communities.
I have a question, just to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We saw what happened last year in the Caribbean. We saw what happened in Indonesia. Local context. Would Kenya have capacity to handle such kind of a disaster? The crazy rains.
The crazy rains. I don't know, to be honest. I think that we do have proper contingency sort of plans in place. We have the right organizations ready to respond. We have NDOC, NDMA, they're great coordinating bodies. But a large-scale disaster like that requires, I think, a lot more coordination, a lot more preparing, which obviously needs further investment.
Well, that's a perfect question for the government, 100%, but I almost can guess their answer. Executive Director, International Center for Humanitarian Affairs, Kenya Red Cross, Safia Verjee, with us on Capital in the Morning. Thank you for your time, Safia, and thanks for the great work you guys are doing, and we wish you all the best and all the support from the private sector as well as the government of this republic.
Thank you for having me.
Meanwhile, you and I can turn our attention to the request hour. It is Thursday, so it is all about your throwbacks. 0701984-984. That is the line you could use to send in your requests, so you can tag us on X. Our handle happens to be at 984 in the morning, using the hashtag drive-in. Spell that with a double N, why don't you?
The best mix of music, Capital